Hey, everybody, this is Jackie Ma, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. Today, I'm so excited to bring on Alexander Galvez, who is an incredible man. He's a father, he's an entrepreneur, he owns a company called Fit Focus, and he is an incredible adept of esoteric mysticism and is a brilliant, brilliant man. I'm so happy to have him on with us. So today, I would love to introduce him to you. Alex, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. It's really great to be here and support your community.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to hear a little bit from your mouth about what it is that you do. A little bit about who you are and what's going on for you.
So what I do professionally is I'm a fitness consultant, but what I've realized over the last 20 years of becoming a fitness consultant, primarily in the physical realm, which is great and very important. That's where kind of everything ends up. But also found that there were inside the process of my own healing needed to kind of optimize other areas of fitness, right? Our fitness being, your mental and emotional well-being, obviously, our nutritional well-being, which is critically important also. And then, of course, depending on the person, how far kind of out they want to go, your spiritual or in actually
Yeah.
spiritual body, your energetic bodies. They're all types. They're all bodies within one framework. And so that's what I realized in my work as being a fitness consultant and primarily in gyms and all that and lifting weights and everything. But again, finding that particularly in the past 2012 that we're in a completely different paradigm that these other areas need to be addressed. Although I don't have expertise or some of them are outside of my scope of practice, we do work in tangent with these other bodies, if you will.
I love that. And so that you basically, I mean, that's obviously happening, but depending upon how ready your client is, will depend on like the scope of how much you move them through consciously, right?
Right. You got to, right. We have to meet each other where we are. It's
Yeah.
and it's interesting how human beings have basically the same essential needs, according to like Tony Robbins, right? Versatility,
Yeah.
variety, consistency, love, belonging, and
Yeah.
all things. But we're so different in so many other ways that so everyone is unique that way, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I want to hear a little bit about some of your training. I know that you've been studying as, with the Taoist master. Tell me a little bit about.
Yeah, so I got certified in the standard certification needed for that sector of business in terms of the fitness world, and what's needed. Obviously, you have to have continuing educational credits, very similar to a doctor or therapists, or in law, you have to keep a a
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
amount, a couple of years to stay accredited in your field. So it's all of that. But again, for me personally, what I wanted to learn more is about like once the physical body pretty much takes care of itself, is the emotional and the mental bodies, especially if you come from, I would say in America, the last 30 or 40 years has been pretty intense. So I feel a lot of us have a lot of unconscious, um, let's say, areas that have been repressed or blinded or negated. I became I went into NLP for a little bit and got a
Okay.
certification there to understand a little bit more about the mind body connection. So then also became a level one associate practitioner in the Tao. The Tao is an ancient form of inner martial arts. So it's a different than the fighting kind. So the inner martial arts would be the ones they would teach you probably as a child, I would think. They would take kids very young and teach them, right? Because once you were 21 and an adult, you already had some type of self mastery.
Mm,
That's,
amen. I really want that implemented in America.
well, that's the thing. And that's, of course, the thing. We have a lot of adult children, now.
Yes.
And it's sadder than that because the arrested development does come with a serious price. And I'm only speaking from my point of view because I came from a historically a place of a lot of trauma that I would say I'm not going to get into it, but from that experience, about 10 years of that severe trauma, the survival rate is pretty low. So I have some context.
Yeah.
You get context if you survive these kind of things.
Mm,
You're going to go down the abyss or you're going to come out in a kind of like the phoenix. So I
absolutely.
share my story, so without getting over dramatic, but it was pretty dramatic, I have to say, coming out of that world, and because it took another 10 years to actually become a civilian, actually.
All right. So wait, I want to hear about this. I also want to lean in to just because
Right.
since we're talking about legacy, I just kind of want to get you from your child years and bring you into the man you are now. So yeah, so you had mentioned to me when we were speaking that you were raised mostly by women. Do you just want to lean in a little bit about your upbringing and
Um, I think we should like set this up, understanding kind of like in the context that I've seen is that basically the destruction of the family unit,
Mm,
the last two generations, and
yeah.
and I would say very carefully, I would say that it's probably socially engineered to some extent.
Oh yeah.
So to your point, I was raised by a working mother who had to work all the time, and had her own issues, and but it was in a household of women, grandmothers, all the females were there, the matriarch, my grandmother, my mother's sisters were there. They all kind of lived in a communal space, so it's kind of like old communal living. And whether you believe in incarnation or not, I have to believe that our soul chooses certain.
Oh,
There's a part of maturation, I would say, in terms of that body and soul body and energetic body. There's part of like a maturation in all of them where you start seeing, or I saw that, okay, this is my soul chose this for a reason.
yep. And PS, just for the sake of this podcast, I'm fully open to you can share whatever you want. I'm with you in reincarnation. And so yeah, you go and the folks will catch up as they need to.
Just careful to speak to your audience to what they.
Yeah.
This
Well,
what I also want to set up is that this is all just for your consideration. I'm not saying any of this is the truth. It's just what I found to be a
yeah.
small truth for me. That's
Yeah,
very specific to who we are, and our experiences, and
absolutely. I would actually love if you are comfortable with it. I'm kind of jumping a little bit, but since you mentioned the family units and what's been happening over the past, couple of decades, and maybe thousands of years. Can we lean in and just talk a little bit about what you're seeing or what you sense around why that is? Like,
yeah. Let me see. So again, just from my own experience, growing up with women, I grew up in the '70s where all these movements were starting and things like that, and I didn't see it then, but I think what was missing, and you still see it in certain traditions. For instance, the Jewish tradition still has goyim. I'm sorry, the bar mitzvah or
yeah.
bar mitzvah, right, for both women, male and female, which is really important part of their
Mm,
milestone life thing. Like you are now an adult, and certainly
yeah.
can feel that reflected in their nature. And living in New York and working with many of them, and see the kind of maturation in the younger adults, and how it was missing in certain other cultures.
Hmm.
So what I realized is when I grew up was I was looking for some kind of masculinity. I didn't know what it smelled like at all. I didn't
Yeah.
even know what it was. Didn't understand it. By default, I was almost becoming a female. I was living with women for so long. So early on, I knew, no, that I had that dark urgency in me, of that kind of warrior spirit. I always had it. So what we did was break out in the street. We just went into the street like a bunch of wild animals. Back in the '70s, it was pretty wild. So I found a pack of wolves, a pack of boys, and
Yeah.
we did what boys do. We were dirty and nasty, and that was kind of what I see now was an initiation. What we did was like
Mm,
how fucked up could you get? Excuse me.
yeah.
Wasted could you get? How much crime could you do? How can you get through this initiation and still come back to us without getting locked up, without getting busted, without getting caught, and still come back to us and then give us
Mm,
the data, run us the data. So it was actually an initiation. We were doing a lot of drugs, and serious drugs. A lot of LSD at the time was very prominent, and it was all over the place for some reason. Or we knew where to get it. Let's put it that.
yeah. Yeah.
I think what I didn't see it, but I saw it 20 years later. I said, "Oh my God, we were actually initiating ourselves into masculinity. We were actually doing that, and we never knew it by all these kind of rituals we were doing."
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, just to mirror in and say, you and I are from a different generation. Is it Alex? Would you please, if it's okay with you, please tell everybody how old you are because it's a phenomenon to me. It's awesome.
Well, it's part of what we're delivering now because we're in a different time space. It's post 2012, so the biological aging criteria has kind of shifted into kind of more like
Yes.
less chronological and more biological as we upgrade our
Mhm.
DNA. So I'm 63 actually.
Yeah,
So
incredible.
there's reasons for that, and that goes into more of the sexual cultivation work, I believe. Um,
Yeah, and I wanna lean into that too.
so far, aging is aging, So.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you too about the loss of rites of passage and that we were finding our way, and that LSD was a big thing for me too when I was coming up, at mescaline, and it was like, yeah, it was totally this very, very young, vulnerable, but like really needing to like come to the edge of life, right? And find more power, find more resilience. Yeah, looking to grow, looking to come home to spirit at some level too, and like really ignite a charge so that, to bring about a change. So I love that. Thank you for bringing that piece in.
And it's
Yeah.
actually the duty of youth to do that. I think, in a lot of the ascension mechanic teachings that I've studied over time, and, they're different ones, and a lot of them are sucked into false systems, which are, I
Yeah.
think, fake. There's definitely a war on this planet.
Mhm.
But in terms of some of the sacred mechanics, these kids would have mastery at 12 years old. They don't have a certain type of light mastery, and body mastery, and
Yes.
they could move their energetic bodies, and have what they call, the light body. They can
Yeah.
actually manifest a lot of the skills of the light body at very young ages, like that hundreds and thousands of years ago, from what I understand.
So then are we in agreement that obviously that was hijacked so that, I mean, it's just for our audience to really get in on that. There was a spiritual hijacking that happened, that it altered our DNA, altered our perceptual reality, that limited us in our understanding, our memory of who we actually are. And this is what we kind of call as like the fall from grace, right? Yeah, and I believe that you, me, and so many of us are here to like bring that back on the planet so that folks can remember who they are and ignite that within themselves, which will create a doorway of enormous awakening for others as well.
Yeah, and it's the difference I believe this is really true. It's the difference from the artificial path
Hmm.
and the biological path, the bioluminescent path.
Yes.
AI is literally like it's eating everything organic up, and including our kids, because these kids now, they don't have to be grown up. They get everything from this machine. We call it the black cube of Saturn. You could
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that makes
black cube of
sense.
Saturn. Yeah, because look at it. Look what does it look like? When you turn it
Yeah.
off, it's a
Yeah.
black. So when kids are getting everything from a machine now, what happens to their this reality?
Yeah.
Who's watching them? And this is a big,
It's,
big, big issue that it goes beyond. I think we're taking our sovereignty back in this age.
mhm.
We have to
Yeah.
really claim
Do you
that.
feel like it too, like as much as this dark agenda continues to reveal itself, so too does it really charge us up and bring us and at some level initiate us for those that feel this calling, and it starts to rise us with it. So there's like this, the alternative reality of like a fake cyber world, and then there is this combustion that happens where folks are just becoming electrified and awakening to the indifference.
Yeah, and from again through some of this ancient ascension mechanics, what my understanding is that literally everything is being upgraded, including the galaxy, the suns. Suns are like, we consider them living systems. They are alive, and they are literally upgrading our DNA.
Yes.
At least I believe that. So
Oh,
why
me
would
too.
I go anything injected into me, or why wouldn't I trust God's grace and my own immune system, which has been around for millions of years and proven,
Hmm.
and inject myself with someone I don't know, I have no relationship with? They have full protection in a court of law against me, and yet most people can't even tell me what they're being
What they're
injected.
putting in.
They can't
Agreed.
tell me what's in it. There's
Yeah.
something wrong, 80 years after the last major world war. I mean, there's something really that's been expedited in the last, I believe, 2012. See, because that's the catch that I think we need to really see, is that post 2012, that age is truly gone, and the Great Mother has birthed a new age. And as we all know, it's metaphoric. and archetypical kind of translation, this new age is
Mhm.
birthing, and birth is messy, painful, and bloody. And these are some of the, the quakes of that. We are her children or
Yeah.
not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we still have that sovereign power of will of, place of choice.
We do. We do. And humanity is in the process of remembering that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. There's so much there.
Yeah.
So much there. All right. I want to lean back if I can. I'm just going to weave us a little bit because I really love to hear what our kids are missing. Like what you sense that these generations, because of this, um, I'm just going to say there's a lack of discipline. There's a lack of, I want to talk about the positives of what these generations can possibly bring. And also like, what do you feel like, yeah, what do you want to talk about with that?
I'm just saying by my research, they're
Yeah.
clearly they're older souls that have been migrating here over and over and over. They're coming in more and more, and they have more experience already than us. So they're traditionally not schooled, so they're getting misdiagnosed as ADD and all whatever this is, and drugged up instead of
Yeah.
considering that their brains are more upgraded than mine are. And these they learn
Yeah.
very, and they're leaders already. These souls that are coming in want to come and turn the wheel of samsara here because we are at that critical stage, and that's why they have to make them go into these AI systems. Who are they?
Yeah.
So it's up to us to really, well, that's why I think the family is super important, and it's being attacked
Me
level,
too.
and why I kind of went into men's work more because of that, in my opinion, the deliberate destruction of masculinity. Let's talk about it because you
Yeah,
know
let's.
if we've been as men, we're talking about as men, for the last, let's just say 6,000 years, it's just hundreds and thousands of wars,
Mm,
millions of people, millions and millions of people killed in the war machine in the last, let's say 2,000 years only.
yeah,
Not to mention families that are destroyed and all that. That's never really talked about. It's just taken, the memories is in our blood.
yeah,
Um, but now we're post that age. We won't go killing for religious reasons anymore. It's I won't go. We won't listen to the priest who says, go kill those infidels now and go to get a free ticket to heaven. Just kill as many of them as you can, and you'll go to heaven for free. By the way,
mm.
it's just like that. Doesn't We don't buy that. It took us about 2,000 years to wake up out of that. But
Isn't
we,
it crazy like how consciousness has to keep pushing and get us to the next level and the things that we feel like are so barbaric. It's fascinating to me.
yeah. And I have to be careful where we go. But I related to the end of 2012 because again that time cycle is end, but we haven't really healed a lot of the karma around, or the
Oh yeah.
just think of your fathers and your parents and how much dysfunction. Let me talk about mine. The tremendous amounts of dysfunction in the family, things weren't talked about, or just that's just the way it was done then, and we are in that new age, and it's going to be it's a bit messy right now. So I just try to be open,
Yeah.
and have a place, a container in myself that I can, basically the inner refuge. And I think that's what's missing. The kids have the bliss, right? Because that's innate in us as children. We
Yeah.
have this inner knowing of bliss. Life is joy and expansion and creation. It's full of creation, and and we kind of unlearn that. We just unlearn it. And now I think it's much more prevalent because now of these injections, they're trying to literally now steer our DNA because they are desperate to stop the DNA from activating.
Mm-hmm. I
And as
concur.
the feminine has reawakened, right? That's the other thing I wanted to share with you is in a couple of the studies I've had with some great teachers who told me, listen, they won't happen in my time, but it's going to happen in your time. I'll never forget this. He told me, Alex, it's not going to happen, but she will be rising out of occultation. She's been hiding and waiting for thousands of
Mm.
years. She's been waiting. And now
Amen.
take the rightful place and balance the justice, the samsara wheel of justice. And all these dark forces will be revealed by her great light, which nothing can hide from. And it's true.
It is
Can't,
so true.
can't hide anything from a good woman.
You can't. And so I want this is beautiful because it segues us into the divine feminine and the great mother and this time that we're in, this time of languishing in birth and nourishment and the newness. And we are all, you know, trying to understand or trying to take our place in the new growth. And we're still like, it is still a mystery. We're still are like, how's this, where do you want me to be? How can I position myself? But the calling, I think, is so profound. So I want to just lean into your teacher saying that to you, and now your service, like what is moving you, and that connection with her.
Yeah. Yeah. So for my personal experience, again, from coming out of trauma, which again was a cultural, it's a cultural thing, right? In the 70s, there was loads of drugs on the street, and we could talk about how they got
Yeah.
there, funded all that and all that, but the breakdown of the family and things like that. But what I realized for me was after I got, let's say, got my life together after that. It took about 20 years. I still noticed that although I could get in shape really quick, oh, that was no problem. Just eat the right foods, right? Because
Yeah.
nutrition is critically important what we're putting in our body. Because again, most things have been compromised out there. We have
Yes.
to really be selective of how we eat, what we eat, when we eat, and what kind of foods we're putting in our body. So that I found that
Mhm.
that's critically important. For instance, the connection just recently they discovered between the
With
gut
the
health
gut.
and brain health. It's
Yeah.
really important that I never realized I was depressed and anxious and because I was eating like crap. That's and
Yeah.
once I got those foods out, my whole biochemistry changed.
Amazing.
So that's a huge, huge part. That's also we believe weaponized for years and years and years.
Ah.
That people have to understand and pull away out of these. It's false. What I call the false system matrix. It's a false.
Mhm.
um, so I went into men's work because of my own deficit with understanding, knowing that I had this urgency, this dark presence that, of either being a killer or a psycho, or, a lazy bum, like, we call the traditional masculine, or, if we're not practiced and, refined, we're killers, we're liars and
Yeah.
lazy, and that's who men can be at their core, at least in the thousands of years, or certainly they're
Yeah.
ruthless. Just that alone is um,
Mm.
so to understand and how to work with those energies because they are innate in us. It's part of our animal nature. But then how with the practice, I believe that most men need a practice, if not all of us today.
Oh, yeah, every human does. So for sure our men do. Yes.
And I consider it, more like a spiritual energetic practice because just like I have to brush my teeth and bathe every day, unless I don't have to, right? Because the truth is, Jacqueline, we don't have to bathe and wash, and we really don't. But there's probably consequences involved with that.
There are consequences.
So that's the way that I have my clients look at things of like their more energetic, spiritual, and emotional, mental natures. That you need a practice to practice proper hygiene,
Mhm.
and it compounds in your life. You'll see little by little, you will see the results, but it takes discipline. See, men would come to me now and they go, "Oh, what's that interesting sexual thing you do? Oh, it's really cool." And it's like, "Wow, what is it?" And it's like, if you're not committed, in other words, they have to connect up front with me, and they're
Yeah.
full in up front because there's no commitment. That's the distinction we've made in men's work. That men either have commitments or addiction. We make it pretty black and white.
Oh, I like that.
We have to make it black and white because it's kind of old school. It can't be, well, you don't know, it's kind of like this, and
Yeah,
well,
let me just,
no,
sample it.
later, it's like, no, we're gonna get this done now, and it's this or this. What do you want to do? Pick
Mhm.
and choose. Are you gonna be committed, or are you gonna have your addictions? And when I look at it, it's
Mhm.
like, no, it's not that simple. It's like, oh yes, it is. It's like, and then when I realized that for me personally, like commitment meant trap. Like I can't get out of this. I can't
Yeah.
slime my way out of this one. But now I'm seeing through practice because it takes the circle of men that you don't trust and you have to trust them. It's like we're in battle together. I don't want to get like overly hyper masculine about it, but it
Mhm.
is the old kind of principles of historically, that's what we built and we went to war and we protected that's the masculine kind of core. But now
Mhm.
it is evolving post 2012. It is definitely evolving to the higher um, kind of level of a spiritual warrior masculine that,
Yeah.
in my opinion, is here now to let her lead the divine feminine and not be threatened by it.
Mhm.
Because women could outdo men in which area,
Yeah.
emotionally much smarter than us. We recognize that up front. We honor the difference as well. You're much smarter than me emotionally. I'm not that good with my emotions, but so we honor that and let her lead in certain ways, and then we protect and contain that in the way that we can lead.
I love that. And did you find that you were learning that through the Taoist traditions, or did you just kind of have a sense of knowing in that and you're relating in relationships?
But the Taoist traditions are primarily feminine based, actually.
Hmm.
But she rules. She really does. You know, I could tell you this in don't ask me how, but I was actually knighted as a Knights Templar, and there was a branch of Knights Templar that was coaxed out of one of the founding family members. Was coaxed that the original Knights Templar revered the goddess, not
Hmm.
God, not the patriarchy. They worship the goddess because she births everything. Everything comes from her.
I agree with you 100% on that in my own memory of those times. And what I do want to ask you is,
Yeah.
if you feel like it's appropriate and you want to answer it, do you believe that the Knights Templars today, obviously it depends on which house and which sect, right? But are they still holding this true infinite structure? Do you feel like it's fallen off course?
Yeah, you know, I don't know enough about it because I know my branch dissolved because actually the patriarchy, they didn't want us because we allowed women into the order.
Oh, really?
We allowed women, similar to the Cathars, we allowed women. And as I believe the new messiahs will be both male and female, right? They're
Yeah.
not like Jesus the man now, but I heard it's
Yeah.
going to be both.
Oh, yeah, it's totally both.
The new messiahs will be both men and women. They will be working together, similar to what we're doing. It's almost
Yeah,
like
exactly.
not getting messianic about it, but you know that it is our kind of our dharma to bring these messages to who will hear it.
Yeah, and to bring the polarity into unity.
Exactly. Which
Yeah,
is
and
how things are down here, you know, unfortunately here. And to
mhm,
room for, you know, the mixing, right? You have a masculine side, I have a feminine side.
absolutely.
Guys and nurtured just as much. And as it's being played out in society in so many ways, right?
It is in so many distorted ways and in so many beautiful ways.
Yeah. It's a lot of distortion because if they were actually not pulled into those false systems that are very kind of
Yeah.
cosmetic and thing and about more of the understanding of the marriage of the masculine and feminine within us, each of us, right? And then you know bring in the gift of what is your gift
To humanity.
to bring this to this time in this epic space.
Mhm. Absolutely. All right, I want to get into the juicy sauce because I actually really want to hear, it's all juicy to me. But I want to hear about the Taoist practices a little bit. And I want to talk about holding the seed. And yeah, I have some questions about that because there's a lot of schools of thought, and I want to honor what is your experience.
Yeah, so again, it's really having to have the will to discover and you know go into areas that are uncomfortable, uncharted, but that's kind of like the spirit of humanity anyway, right? We want to do
It
that. That's
is.
like our nature. Um, what I realized just raised without a father, so already having a deficit of not understanding masculine energy at all. But once I was mature enough to be intimate, you know, that was just a complete disaster. You know, it was just, you know, always is just it was humiliating, I would say. And it
Mm,
hurt because I wanted to nurture, you know, a woman so much, you know, or understand what that was, you know. So I started learning about the Taoist sexual cultivations, which is different, a little different than the traditional Buddhist path, because you know a lot of the Buddhist tradition, Theravada in India, like these, they give up everything. Obviously, their body's one of them. Like their body's
mm,
not self. Basically, it's a form of uh, you know, self, not self. Like your thoughts are not
mhm,
self, feelings are not self, your body's not self. The Taoists were a little different monks in that they felt the more that they can refine their body, that they can bring the memory back and navigate that back to the Tao meaning the unnameable, where you came from, hence whence you will return to that. And they would build through the sexual energy to keeping the glandular system really, right, nice and
mm.
juicy glands, right? Juicy, right? It's kind of like a sexual
Yes.
yeah, staying juicy that you could, you know, minimize the aging process, particularly for men in the Chinese medical protocol. Men accelerate their age process through the ejaculation process, through losing the seed through their body. And in tradition, women would kind of energetically be more taxed during their menstrual cycle. Obviously,
Hmm.
the monks and the concubines would learn how to use these sexual energies and refine them and turn around where a woman's menstrual cycle would only go maybe for a day or so. so that all that blood that was lost can be regenerated and re-alchemized, redirected, and then re-energized and then alchemized somewhere. So the key was for me to understand this is first the science. You have to get educated. And you have to have the will to get educated and the discipline.
Mm.
So the science, the practices, you practice. You practice on yourself.
Practice. Yeah.
Which most men are doing anyway. They're just
Most men are doing anyway. Yeah.
addicted to porn instead. So the thing is, let's refine your energy, understand a different context, because it has to come from a different place entirely. Because once you learn how to respect that power first, you have to respect it, and then learn how to obviously conjure it, and then you redirect it, and then start alchemizing it. So it becomes, from a science, it becomes an art.
Mm-hmm.
You start seeing how you use this energy artfully, right? It becomes like an art form, like almost like your own signature.
I love it.
You have the foundations, but you have now your own signature as an artist. So think of all these different artists, these masters, right? Cubists and surrealists, right? And you know, the masters themselves and how different they were, right? This is like the gift of each one of us bring. And once you, a man or a woman, develop the science, and you start becoming artful with it in yourself first, because it is a self practice. Everything has to come from the self first. There's nothing outside of us, right?
Yeah.
Then once, if you're fortunate enough to find the other, you know, your sacred soulmate or whatever it is, um, and then it becomes magical. It truly becomes. I've seen it over and over, and it's just like it was just when she blew my heart wide open into like a billion stars.
Mm.
It's hard to talk about because it's almost like I told you, it's like a mathematical musical language. It's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
beyond, you know, just witnessing what I've seen. If a man can hold his seed long enough, that allows the woman, right? Because we're opposite. Men warm up from the bottom up usually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women warm up from the top down. You know, it's like we're opposites. That's what we the yin yang, and respectfully honoring the differences and yet bringing them into unification. But you know, when I could hold that container for her and not give away to the, you know, the itch of nature, and just hold, just wait.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Shiva, and even deeper,
Yeah. It is.
like pure emptiness. It's just the container of emptiness, and she brings the fullness in. So again, you have those opposing forces.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'm death, like literally beyond death, and pure empty, and she is like beyond life, all this richness. And I would describe it inside that magical practice, or that artful practice of lovemaking, and practicing lovemaking
Mm.
is the was so amazing. It's just like almost brings me to tears when I
Yeah, me too.
it's because it's just, you know, once it's there, it's just like it's like chitta. The Buddhists call it chitta. It's like it's beyond the heart even. So once the unity's there, so you basically merge with another soul,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing a woman disappear, like I literally seen her disappear, and then she comes out.
Reemerge. Yeah.
Also this force and I knew that, oh, like, oh shit, am I gonna run? This is like the feminine force you've conjured
Yeah.
up. Now you're dealing not with the woman, you're dealing with the forces of her inner alchemy, of her like natural force.
Yeah.
And just witnessing, you know, the little girl, the animals, the creatures, the sounds, you know, they basically, a woman would holds in her satellite dish, right? Her yoni is a satellite, like it
Mm-hmm.
literally converges a star into a living being in this dimension. It's like I can't do that, so I have to be humbly respected of something. You know, that's a bit of my teacher as well. You know, I bow to respect the difference and honor that and protect that. That's the key, to protect that,
Mm.
because she holds the consciousness of the collective. The entire human collective is inside her blood memory, and being able to witness that, you know, and a woman who would give herself like completely, like I surrender my soul to you. It's like, oh my god, I just like, and then have it all go to shit, you
Yeah.
know, because we're in this dimension that's full of distortions and false systems and lies, and a matrix that's distorted and continues, but at least now is being revealed by the great mother. She's revealing the truth to us all behind what's all this thing.
Yeah, she is revealing it. I want to lean in with you about something. When you first experienced this anomaly, this this bigness of her when she comes through. Um, Obviously she comes through me, right? So I need, but from your perspective, I want to hear, because a lot of men don't have context for it, and she won't always reveal it, the container, if that man is not a Shiva character that can hold that depth, right? It really is about this interrelating where our souls, there's a capacity and this willingness and grace that is afforded to us, right? That these portals open inside of us, that we say yes, right, to go to that place where we have never gone before. Or did you sense a lot of fear in you, or was it just like, were you like,
Yeah, it's terrifying to really see a woman like really open up, like unleash.
yeah,
I'm not, from my understanding, and I'm not like saying, I'm good at this. It was just a good match. We were just, you know,
mm, beautiful,
and quite frankly, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'll say she wants nothing to do with me anymore because she doesn't want to risk ever again going to that. And I understand her. In fact, I ran into her in New York a couple of weeks ago, and she goes, "I don't want to talk to you. Please leave." I said, "Of course, I understand."
yeah,
Because anything else is me. I'm himsa. It's the yoga practice of those addictive kind of. She's going to fulfill me. She gave me the gift already. She blew me like wide open.
yeah,
And that's it. That's all you get. And you know what you get? This is what we teach men. The only thing you get from giving everything you have, you have to understand, this is kind of more like a really deep, extreme masculine end. Is like that
yeah,
death principle of you have to have death as your partner all the time to make you good.
yeah,
Is that the only choice I have is to give everything I have at this point at 63. Because you know what? I don't have much time now. When I was 40, I thought, I'm still gonna live forever. Who cares? I can just fuck around. And then, it's a different dynamic. Your parents are still alive, things like that. It's a
yeah.
different time. You're still going through a lot of things. But, when you get a little older, it's like, oh shit, I don't have any more time to waste. This is real. This aging is very real, and this is only temporary. And what do you got to really give with no expectation of anything in return? That's the key.
Mm,
All I can do as a man is give everything I have with no expectation of anything in return. And to me, that's true masculine presence.
I love that. I received that. That's super powerful.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, it
I wish I
really
had a
is.
dad that taught me that. I still said, Dad, I wish he taught me that, but it's okay. This is the realm of learning.
This is the realm of learning. So, all right, I have a question about this. I have
Yeah.
a question about holding the seed. I hear what you're saying and I love it. For those that would say, well, obviously, if you are purposely choosing to, you have a daughter, and if you were going to have more children, do you want more children?
I would love to, but everybody tells me you're crazy. That would be
If you did, so then you make a choice at that point to offer your seed.
right.
Okay. All right. And there is a little piece of me, there's a little piece of me that wants to say, but the seed, I totally understand how it regenerates you. And I get the power behind it, even though I haven't studied it, I can see it and I can understand it. And there's this other part of me that's like, as a woman who wants to receive fully my partner, this feeling like something is being withheld from me
Mm,
in not receiving that seed. And this could be programming on my part, but it's just also is like what we have known to share. Those golden seeds are so sacred. And so if they're entrusted to me, there is like a commonality that there's this both this, yeah, I want to do this with my hands,
mm.
this delicious juice sharing. Um, so yeah, I don't know. Is there anything that comes up for you when I say that?
Yeah. What I've seen is we're just so deep in a matrix where we and I have to be careful not to use these overused terms like we have to wake up, but it's happening anyway. It's happening. Clearly, COVID was a wake up call, and I'm not going to get into it.
Mhm.
To me, there's war. That's outright declarations of war. I'm a man.
Yes.
I got you know what, and you know what? When you take my economy away and you tell me I have to produce something in front of you so I could go to work, those are declarations of war.
Yeah.
And you're going to put something in my body, you're not going to even confirm what it is to me, into my children. that's war. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to get over emotional,
Oh,
but
no, that's fine. I
black
understand.
and white. There are good times and there are bad times, and we're not in a good time right now. And it's going to be a time of transformation. We need it. It's nature, right? It also is. It's all God, right? So we need this also for us to get to that next level of awakening. As hopefully we can get to a level one civilization to meet our cosmic brothers and sisters. But if we don't grow up, I mean, there's a
So
non-intervention. From my understanding, they can't even intervene because we're not going to wake up on our own accord.
yeah.
Who knows? I'm just saying. I'm just saying this is just kind of where I'm
So
coming.
did that just come in when I had said that about the juices, because you were talking about like how the destruction of the DNA, the destruction
Social
of
engineering.
social engineering. Yeah.
That what I'm seeing in younger men is there's I don't know if I noticed because I work with a lot of men. It's just more of a disconnect, and it's because of this. This is because we
Mhm.
didn't grow up with that. Now this is changing human behavior
It is
completely.
changing human
In
behavior.
the brain, it's changing how we reach the social interactions. There's less of this. There's less social interaction, right? Even by the fact that you and I here are on a two-dimensional plane instead of in
Yeah.
front of each other. It's kind of backwards. We're not three-dimensional. We're two-dimensional.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
it has its benefits too. That's what we're looking at is how to
How to use it in a way that,
but still be awakened to a higher calling. And for me, like you said, to conjure that man needs, he has to really want it. He has to be super conscious. He has to have a practice, like a daily practice
yeah,
as a part of hygiene. Some
I
people don't.
am 100% with you.
And then he's conscious enough to say, I could understand that, a woman is much more powerful. Most men have a lot of, and I suffer from this myself. Even at times, it's like, almost like a resentment of women's power, because
Mhm.
they're very powerful. And I
Yeah.
think women are coming into their power now. As you, as a leader, I see you as a,
Yeah.
you must, put. I've asked many of my sisters to please put a school together for women.
Well, it's so interesting because yes, we need to do that. And then there's this, if I may, yeah, I want to lean into the men about this, is like, I don't want to propagate the story that like our men are just not waking up or not ready. But it's true that what I'm seeing in my world, it's because it's my own world, right? But I accept responsibility for that. But women that are just, and men, actually, my brothers that like don't have children that want partners. There is this separation that, like, for whatever reason, there's a lot of people that are not together. And that's because of this engineering you're talking about and the distortion of the divine feminine and the distortion of the divine masculine, this like lack of trust, naturally so, but like, how do you feel beyond moving through the grief and coming out and being willing to, have faith and trust in you in humanity and one another again? Like, how the hell are we going to come together again? And
Yeah.
like, I mean, yeah, I have like, I know three incredibly beautiful men who don't have children and they want to be partnered and they're good looking men. And it's like, it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, and I would include myself to some degree to that because what happened with me, even though I don't know all those practices and went super deep with a partner that I particularly hold dear, and the thing is now because it's gone now, and now I'm afraid to partner up again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hence the nature of things. It's like, we're so worried about,
Yeah, so
yeah.
the
It's,
studying, I think studying is not only practice but studying. So I study with
yeah.
my Buddhist teacher because he tells me, you're still attached. Your concentration's poor. How often do you meditate? How's your meditation? He calls it concentration, not meditation. Very distinct difference.
Hmm.
How deep can you stay still in your meditation, not drift off and literally be still and just be in the breath. That's it, or just focus on one point of concentration for how long? How long have you been doing that?
I love hearing that. And I also really want to say that I honor and as you do, really value the differences that men and women bring. Like the fact that our world is in denial or purposely, obviously, in a demonic inversion about this.
They call us all
Um,
guys now, right? Hey guys, it's like don't call me a guy and don't call my woman a guy either.
yeah,
Oh come on, it's like it's just we're just so no, but that's the thing that they want to dilute everything down and less distinction, less
yeah.
long. You want to
It's
learn how
like,
You want to learn how to fly a plane? You need to learn how to fly a plane this way. This is how you fly a
Yeah,
plane.
yeah, absolutely. And to be able to celebrate the differences, like I feel different just because I'm talking to you. Like,
And you know what? I can see it
yeah,
immediately.
totally.
When I'm with a woman and you could see her masculinity soften, her face opens, the aura starts lifting, the feminine aura. I could immediately see it in your face. Your face kind of, it's almost like this. I don't want to say I could read auras, but I could see it literally like a field open. It's like there she is.
Absolutely.
She comes. Thank God.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't it
you.
so? It's so yummy. I feel it. And so when the Shiva energy, when your energy comes in, when the masculine comes in and I'm in the presence of masculine, even the truth is, even if it's obviously yours is divine and you're cultivating it, but even if it's just like somebody who just carries some of that Shiva power in a masculine form, it does. I can sense it immediately. And when I see women who haven't dated in a long time and they start to be in relationship with men, I can start their thighs, their hips feel more rounded, and there's a softening to the physical body structure. It's like a melting. And when I'm being loved up on, oh my God, I feel I'm singing more, right? There's just this like dripping away of armor because there is this sense of profound. It's crazy to say this, but because I don't want to say it from like a weird sexist, there is a divine protection that gets interlaced inside of my field, inside of me that they bring from the outside that opens and shields start to melt away. And there is this defined, exquisite remembrance and brilliance that actually opens the soft tissue inside of my body. And it is, oh, it's so gracious, it's so filled with life. And so I'm just so grateful for
Yeah,
the awareness.
that's actually part of the mechanics themselves, ascension mechanics. We look at it as a science now. It's provable science. It's actually scientifically provable based on Planck, I think, mathematical theories on Planck, that bliss is the equation to ascension, actually.
I love that.
Kids live in that, right? They're just happy and they're just free, and right. So we come in that way in that form of bliss. And I think their kids are super brilliant. If we taught them what we would teach sacred mechanics to kids starting from 4 years old, I'm not kidding, 3 to 4, they would be incredible. Can you imagine how advanced we'd be at 20 years old?
Oh, I'm with you. I'm like, let's pull them all out of schools now. And you, me, and all the great, the
Well,
little, we bring our pieces together and we create schools for
this,
these.
this is what we're creating, I think,
Yeah.
by and it's clear to me because one thing I wanted to add to you was it's actually when I started training myself in the sexual cultivation works because I wanted to be a good partner. That's all. I just wanted to learn how to give pleasure to a woman, and it's all believe me, it's still kind of end resulted, like not performance based, I'd say, but giving, wanting to give pleasure, more pleasure, more pleasure. It's like kind of that place of giving without performance orientation. But from what was I going to talk about is what did you mention last? You just mentioned.
I was in the soft tissue.
Right. I'm sorry, my point got thrown off, but I'll
That's
come back.
okay.
It's all
Yeah.
relative.
So, all right. So we know that this exquisite yin and yang together is like, it's everything for
Yeah,
those that know.
yes, that's what we wanted. We were talking about bliss and how bliss is
Mhm.
literally. I've been working with some members of like basically they're into more like the ascension mechanics based on proven physics. Like it's literally provable that bliss is our exit. It's like an exit out of the matrix, actually, literally, and that's why they want to keep so much economic pressure,
That's right.
food
Yeah.
pressure, work pressure, economy, bring it down. Everything is basically feeding off us because they've lost their soul. They've lost their
Yeah.
own ability. They lost their own ability to implode bliss, and they have to get it now from everything else. Interestingly enough,
Yeah. Interestingly enough,
that's one of the theories we're looking at. But bliss, yeah, it always comes back to bliss, which I have to remember myself.
I have to remember it too, because it's so easy living in New York. you know, I say location because I mean, this is a central hub. Cities like LA, Chicago. I mean, to be in these places, it's like it's really big, and it's much different than, for example, me living on the island of Malta, which I'm an entirely different emanation, and now I have to bring that emanation to this body here in New York and cultivate that, and it's not an easy feat.
Can I ask you, Jacqueline, why do you think you were pulled as a woman, as a being here in this time and space, pulled to these different locations, geographic locations, and now being pulled across the world to another geographic location? I mean, besides family and whatever,
Oh, yeah. It's jam-packed with many different things, but the first one is these are places where my soul has incarnated before. So I needed to go back into those places to restore DNA and activate my coding so that I would be able to remember more of who I was, and to activate the earth in those places. So it's like one and the same, right? So it's always two. So we were doing that together in the physical locations. And also when we turn on and awaken the toroidal, so awaken the DNA and activate the toroidal field, then I'm able to implement and bring the energy and the power and the wisdom and understanding from those incarnations back into awareness, so that I can live more true to my nature.
beautiful, yeah. And
Yeah, thank
that
you.
feels so right. That's again, makes me feel
Yeah.
like, ah,
Yeah.
it's
And it's so beautiful too, because that once that remembrance and that activating and opening comes in, I'm still just learning now that it's not something that we run away to anymore.
mm,
Right. So even though, yes, it will be activating for me to go back on the land, like, Italy, I lived for a while too. That's also ancestral ground for me. So that was very powerful for me, for my bloodline, in this ascension process, and France, and yeah, Turkey. I could go on, but like all of these, it was part of me replanting myself, activating my power spots, activating the genius of the DNA that is within me, and now bringing that here to the place where I'm literally 10 minutes from where I was born.
wow,
So it's integrating all of that in the birth body, that, and the lands that formed me in this incarnation, so I can hold that intrinsically in a whole different way. Yeah.
it's beautiful. Kind of like,
Exciting times.
it's really beautiful, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking that. So, as it pertains to weave it back to legacy. So obviously, I mean, everything we're talking about is preparing the next generations, embodying the genius and the divine masculine and the divine feminine that we are, to like come back home to our true DNA, activate, awaken, and bring forth those primordial gifts that each one of our souls is here to share with one
Yes.
another. And obviously you're in a man body, and you have a preferential uh commitment to the divine feminine, and
Definitely.
and also you have a daughter. I forget, do you only have one child or do you have more?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
all
I
right.
did a few too.
Okay. So as far as the legacy you want to see, and I love that you also were like time, like now is it. We're getting older, and we see that our kids, I don't want to say that they're out of time, but we can see what happens when we are not initiated early, what that can look like moving forward. But so if we can get into the hearts and souls of humans, mothers, fathers, children, and they are ready to step in and commit to remembering who they are, and creating the discipline and the hygiene, and yeah, coming out of the muck and becoming the lotus. So what would you say? Like, I don't know. I have so much to say. So I'm like,
Yeah, please share it. No, because
um,
I trust actually the feminine when I'm in front of you. I trust her to actually reveal
yeah.
what's
So what is it that you feel like, oh, it's interesting what wants to come through. What is it that you feel like your seed your seeds, your golden seeds, your manhood, but your seeds of life that you feel like you're placing here within you, and then that you're going to leave behind.
Yeah, it's a great question because, that's why I say I'm not a master of anything. I'm still have my everyday challenges. I have my own fears. I have my shadow I still work with. I'm choosing to live alone right now to really face that at my age
Yeah.
and to really have like a relationship with not to be morbid or anything, but with death.
Yeah.
Like death is real. And it's like all I'm gonna have when I'm facing, my creator is like, did I leave this place better? And did I fulfill
Yeah.
myself as best as I could? That's the only thing I could wish for. And not being satisfied with that now, it's a great question because I think part of it is community more. We have to, like, I have to be able to come out of my cave too and be
Mhm.
vulnerable still and actually work with more women, I think, because I believe that the feminine is now taking the lead again
Mhm.
after thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. Like she's coming back and to listen to her divine wisdom, and then we kind of lay the foundations out of new community, basically new earth, because we are in again, most people don't understand, I think, that how important the end of 2012 was, or the beginning of it was. It
For
really is.
sure.
Time, space, literally space and time have literally shifted, and every day there's another level of it coming through. Another, if you listen carefully, this, oh shit, here's another nuance that's coming through. She's saying, here's
Yeah.
another little, they're almost like I'll tell you, it's like this artist, and you have 30 shades of red, or you know what blue is, but you ever see like 30 different shades of blue? Sure, that's kind of like what the divine feminine is, and kind of really listening. Can I hear it, and where can I put the practical application of that in my life, in my work, in my business?
Yeah.
Serve as best as I can with no agenda.
So what do you think for like, it's weird for the modern man, right? This is like an ego shattering of for all of us, including me. Like our egos are being shattered to smithereens in order for us to inhabit, like to let her come through. It has to destroy everything. It has destroyed my life in a million, not my life force, but it has destroyed who I thought I was in my life a million times over and continues to do that, right? And for this like machismo modern man who doesn't get all of this and who feels really like hijacked or afraid by distorted feminine movements. Like I know that you have a deep integral relationship with her, even if it's not an understanding, because how much can we understand the anomaly of this force of creation? But how, like, do you feel like men, I know you work with men, you're serving men, do you feel like men are awakening?
I
Like,
think we're at the precipice because we kind of see this split happening. But all I can say is what I've noticed that I'm doing, particularly like in my business, if you want to segue to what I do,
yeah.
what I learned is I'm developing more programs for men because they're reaching out to me. And it was because of the women. The women had told me about 10 years ago, you go teach men this because we need it. Could you
Yeah.
teach my boyfriend this? And it's like, I'm doing it for myself. I don't teach it. I just know it works.
Yeah.
I can't teach just because I know something. Don't mean I can teach it. That's a very important distinction, right? Just
It
because I practice
is.
and I'm not even knowing, I'm still in the practice, right, of understanding the
Yeah.
complexities of this miracle that the body is, right, and how it works in synergy with all the glands, all the organs, all the
Mm.
systems that work together. That doesn't mean I can teach it, but one woman was particularly. I saw her coming as a form of the goddess coming when she
Mhm.
literally jumped on my back and pounded on my chest. You go teach men now, do it. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, that's her. That's not.
Yeah.
It's not Rachel.
Yeah. That's the big ma.
And I said, okay, you have to humble yourself to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Listen to the kind of she's opening the opportunity for you. And it's the anointing of the feminine. She literally will soak you with Amrita, which physically,
She
yeah.
will.
Like liquid light. That's actually fucking liquid light.
It
It's
is
like,
liquid light.
am I so fortunate to be able to get this far in this labyrinth of nature, to be blessed with this, you know, kind of
It's amazing to me that I'll speak for me, that I spent most of my life, you know, having sex, from when I was a teenager on, just having very, very, I don't even know what kind of sex it was. It just was not a sex that moved me in any real sense of depth. And it wasn't obviously until I opened up spiritually that a lot of that shifted for me. And then still a lot of it fell short because I was experiencing something, but I felt like I was experiencing it alone at some level, right? If there's not as much consciousness. Um, and then when you do have that unity, yeah, it's like, it doesn't mean that you're going to be together forever. It doesn't mean, and we have all of our human attachments. And I say human not to degrade us. I mean, it's divine. We're here, we give birth to children. I mean, attachment is something that it's part of the flesh. I don't know where I'm going with this, but just feeling like this, porn culture, this whole fake
Right.
culture keeps us from really being intimate and being so raw and vulnerable. I mean, we know that when you're really naked with somebody, like not just bodies, but when you're naked with somebody, when you're willing to take a little bit of these shields off, I mean, you can go into your 3-year-old self and like just so much reveals. And how are we as a humanity? Like it's literally heart by heart, by men and women coming together, opening up these doorways for like to come out of performance. I mean, I was in that performance world for so long, and I still have to stop myself sometimes. If an ego aspect of mine comes in, it's like, for me, it was like watching BET videos and watching how these women contort their bodies and what men really want. And it is so far from the truth.
Yeah. So in our addressing that, or I should say, what the way I'm addressing is because now more men are coming to me saying, "Hey, what's that thing you do?" And they have to put up skin in the game, so they pay in advance. So this way, I know they're locked in. And then I said, "Listen, you're gonna pay up front, and that's how I know you're locked in and serious." So once somebody just did that, but they're coming more often. So that's the key: is first to start waning men off porn and get them more centered and conscious into their own discipline and a practice. They need to have some kind, even a breathing practice, because
Oh,
you're so disconnected and sucked into the matrix so bad, into the fall system. And again, AI is making it worse and worse and worse, like into the kind of sub reality of it's like a
yeah.
sub reality of the phone in your life, and you have this reality, the outside world, and you have this sub reality here that I'm noticing. You know what? I'm keeping this away from me more and more and more.
Great.
And I can focus on the natural intelligence that's evolving by the stargates that are being opened on this planet all over.
Mhm.
All these portals are being opened up, and it's finding that center first so that we can transmute a lot of these energies and refine them into a logical, instill honored logic in intellect,
Yeah,
be logical and have intellect around these immense forces that I don't know what they are, but they're massive and they're coming through.
they're coming through.
And what I find is, unless you have a practice, you will get sucked deeper into the slave matrix or go mad, absolutely mad, or just leave. A lot of people,
Yeah.
every day, I see people are dying. This one died. This one died. This, of course, no one's mentioning if they were injected or not, but they're not
Yes.
that whole thing. But
Agreed. Agreed.
so this is like an epic time we're in to really work deeper together. So I'm so appreciative that you're reaching out,
Hmm.
despite
Me
the distance,
too.
really create this community and help to educate, really bring new education that actually is old education. Much of
It
it is.
is. It's old education for sure. And we're also just like transforming ways that don't work for the modern time. So we are these modern day alchemists, right? Who were the old ones who are here again. And we're like, oh, the infrastructure is slightly different, right? We're studying the environment. We're practicing and seeing what modalities need to actually be, inserted here at this time and when and playing with timelines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because and again, I try to be practical about it without being like
Mhm.
uh, fatalist about it. But we're in very dark times,
I
obviously.
concur.
But it's beautiful because again, I believe that the great divine feminine is actually showing us with her light that's lit up when she's in her fullness. She's fully lit up, and she says, "Here, children, look at you. Want to make this choice? Here's what's there." But you have to make an adult sovereign decision, not under who you think your master is or your government and stuff. This is This is why I think this whole thing is desperately trying to control our DNA throughout the planet, and just destroy the economy, obviously.
I
Uh,
agree. And all the race war and the fear mongering and like all this like crazy and who's a man, who's a woman, like it's just charades of like enormous proportion.
Distraction to distract you from the fact that we are awakening to the divine, powerful beings that we're supposed to be. In this time matrix now, we're in a critical phase of a time matrix for our species. I think to also, we're not at the top of the food chain, certainly.
Yeah, agreed. Totally agreed.
So I
Mm,
think we have choice. We are. My understanding is we were angelic beings, and we kind of fell from grace, and we're making our way back.
yeah, we are. We're remembering who we are.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate your time.
yeah,
Is there, well, you basically just laid out all the advice that you need, like for men that are coming in. I'm going to obviously put all your details below so that people can reach out to you and work with you. And I'm making a prayer for all of us, but specifically, I'm highly invested, obviously, in men. One, because I intend on partnering with the delicious one, and also because I have a son, and I just want to see um, true justice, right? Not this social justice, this like phenomenon of chaos we're seeing, but true justice where each one of us is seated in our sovereignty and our royalty and and participating together in a way that is truthful and honoring of one another.
yeah. That it's what's coming. I feel I have no choice really, and
Yeah.
that's what I was taught with the men. What commitment is? They would say, Galvez, you're going to either be committed or you're going to have your addictions, and you have to choose.
Yeah.
You have to choose, not us. You have to choose. We're
I
just here to,
love that.
so
So
now I see commitment as a path to freedom, not to being trapped.
yeah, it's
Because
like bringing you all into alignment with divine will and
yeah.
saying, yes, like I yield to that.
Jacqueline, can I ask you what do you see? Because I always I go to what you're hearing, what she's
Yeah.
what's coming through you, and what she's telling you, and how you're living it. And
Yeah. Um, Alex, honestly, I sense a lot of death. And that is metaphoric and so it's big in so many ways. Obviously, it is physical, and I just sense a lot of death to how we've known ourselves to be, death to a world, death to fake worlds, death to just death. And I feel really good about it when I'm talking about it. It's not a scary death, although it is kind of scary. But what we're seeing has been scary all along, that we've been compliant in living in and living in relationship to. And now we're starting to get some room from it so we can get perspective and see, holy shit, like each one of us has been living our lives and saying yes at so many different levels to living in darkness. Right. We agree at all these turns, even though it might seem like, how did this happen? When did this happen? But to become honest about what we've been participating in is a continuous shattering. And we're seeing that in all of our systems wanting to collapse. So I see the continued collapse, but I also continue to see a lot of fighting. And while this is happening, I feel a maturation happening inside of humanity, that somehow in the middle of this, like, which looks like childlike crisis of inside human grown-up adults, that there's a lot of energy that is moving and growing and changing form. And I do sense that it's going to be way beyond my lifetime. But I sense that there is just this growing aggravation and this like contorting inside of Earth, and that each one of it, we're not getting out of this unscathed. I feel like I'm reporting right now. I feel like the news reporter, but that we are going to find a new resonance of love, like a true, deep sense of self. And we are going to ignite with that. And so I see a lot of people leaving the planet, and I see a lot of people coming in. And I do feel like there's going to be a huge call for mentorship from our mothers and fathers to get in alignment, to prepare and continue to dissuade the distorted forces out of our own families and out of our own lives, and to take full presence and precedent in our own bodies. So we're basically, most of the world is homeless, essentially. And so coming home to themselves, and I sense that that's happening, and it just looks crazy.
Yeah, anything goes right at this point.
Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Totally.
it's been happening, it's pretty evident, that's,
Yeah,
there's a space that, that has to be held for that also, that,
for
it's
sure.
all God or it's not, one of my teachers had told me, Alex, it's all God or none of it is, it's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Even in the play with, the satanic and like all that stuff. I mean, it's all happening here in real time. It's all enmeshed with humanity in some way. And so getting really discerning, and we have to continue to keep choosing, like every day, as you say, with the commitment, keep making the decision. The more and more consciousness that pushes, the more and more we see, we make a new decision at every moment. Like, I'm going to participate in that, or I'm not going to participate in that. And I believe that the strengthening and the shared good will bring us together. And I believe that the separation of the male and the female will start to dissolve at a more rapid pace, so that our bodies can actually anchor. Like, our physical bodies are really important here. They're a key. It is, as you said, the stars. It's like bringing stars together and activating the Merkabahs, and bringing forward Christ consciousness, like almost like an explosion in our lower bodies, so that we can anchor it in the earth plane.
beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for that. Because that
You're
reminds me
welcome.
to keep getting back to the earth, which is super important. Always go back to actually practicing on the earth. It's super,
Yes.
not indoors, because we have an anomaly of aluminums and currents and 5G and plastic
Yeah.
through the apartment. So I try my best to always practice outdoors. That's
I
where
love that.
like, you have to be rooted on the earth for the electromagnetic currents to be transferred.
Totally agreed. And I also just say one more thing, like there's a lot of, different medicine carriers, right? Everybody thinks they're working with different things, and at some level they are, but the reality is it is earth medicine, but that's because we're of earth, but we're also of star, right?
Yes.
So we're also bringing, no matter what, it's as above, so below. So we are always bringing cosmic energy and anchoring it in relationship to the earth, right? So it's always both.
Always, yeah.
It's always both. That's yummy.
Nick,
Yay. Oh, well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to say as far as your work, or anything that you're offering, or anything that you want to say to the people to?
I thank you. I appreciate that. I'm very excited to be teaching men this ancient martial arts. Remember, this is 6,000 years old, so it's time proven over history.
Yeah.
And I mean, I even look at myself, so like 63, Jesus, like, what are you doing, man? But obviously, there's proof to the practices. So it works. It works, but it takes practice, it takes discipline, and but that's what anything worth of value is going to be,
Agreed.
has to be acquired. Skill has to be acquired. And talent and skill and ability still have to be refined and acquired. So, and it doesn't have anything to do with a freaking computer.
Yeah.
It has to do with you and you.
Hmm. And
It's,
me,
and I'm really
indeed.
excited to be working with you. I'd like this to be a like a basically just a preset to what's coming for the future, because
Yeah,
we've
me too.
respected you for so long since we've worked with Stephen,
Yeah.
and so I'd love to work with you at another level. If anything else is going on, let's do
Same,
it.
same. I feel that brewing too. And for some reason, I just want to say, I just want to get in the woods with you.
Yeah,
So we'll watch and see what wants to unfold.
definitely.
Um, For sure, for sure. Oh, it's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed being in your masculine energy and sharing space with you. And thank you for honoring the divine feminine and having a richer understanding. However that is, I feel it. And so it makes me feel happy and celebrate a bit inside of my heart that this is dawning and that we are at a place again where, yeah, there's more. It's
Here,
happening.
he's here. Yeah,
Yeah. And that women are not alone in this.
right.
Like that's part of an old story and let's deconstruct that story so that we all really need from this higher divine perspective to be in communion with men and women together. And
Yeah,
and I love our family structure. I'm a big fan of the mother, father, and the child.
me too. And, Jacqueline, do you see a possible school for women coming your way? Because that's kind of what I.
Um, I do. And I feel like right now it's needed to operate in a certain way while I was transmuting and moving through some things. So we'll watch and see what my piece is in that. But one thing that feels really important is, each one of us obviously has our specific medicine,
Yeah.
right? Like about how that works. And there's so many divine feminine mystery schools that are rising right now. And I'm really grateful. And I also feel like there needs to be that discipline. There needs to be this Shiva energy. And so I'm cultivating sort of these structures inside of me to be able to hold it in a way that is honoring. And yeah, we'll watch and see the unfolding with that.
Excellent.
But I'm like, yes, I want to get at these mothers big time. I'm like, oh, yeah. I call it right now, the energy is the elegance of warriorship. And it's like, it's not a sloppy divine feminine. Like it is just such a divine emanation and it's clarity and it's
Yeah.
so finding that balance of her in a way that can be brought down like a needle point into the earth so that it can really, really insert its true medicine. So I'm in that process. So to be continued.
Yes, I'm totally here to support you in that effort. So let
Thank
me.
you. Thank
That's
you.
very, very serious about
I
that.
appreciate that. Thank you so much. All
Well,
right.
well,
We thank our audience and we hope that you received all of the bounty that I'm feeling inside. And I'll give you all the information for you to get into contact with Alex and all the things. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And thanks, Alex, for tuning in. And we'll talk again very soon.
Jacqueline, God bless. Much love to you.
Thank you. You too. Ciao, ciao.
At the table.